It's time to level up, Squids. All right. So for today's subject today, I just sounds repetitive. Oh, anyway, hello. Space and pressure. So this is a subject that I wanted to talk about for quite a bit. I think I've mentioned this before in the previous video in mechanics and beyond, where like you can't approach if there's a lot of stuff in your face. So, but we're going to talk about that today, and we're also going to talk about space, so aka paint. I want to talk about space paint. I want to talk about how important paint is in this game, how to control space. It's very important. So we're going to talk about these type of steps. I'll be showing that bit by bit. So let's start off with the first one. For today, I wanted to let's go to space concepts real quick. Turf rule number 1. We're going to have turf rules. Turf rule number 1. Having the most turf is advantageous. Well, duh. Because it has the most gives you more positioning options and more movement. So let's get started. Alright, so space and pressure. Okay, so having the most turf, obviously painting around is very important. And it's very obvious. So like, oh, the more paint you have, the more advantage you have, because you have the freaking whole map under your control. Duh. You can clearly see that, like, if I paint all of this and green only has this amount, you're obviously gonna be winning. In turf war, duh, and in this game, sorta, duh. But that's not what I'm referring to. It's like, well, yeah, and it's also obvious that, like, obviously you'll have more advantages in terms of, like, you can move places and you can start saying, oh, I have to shoot this guy down, so therefore if I have advantage, I should be positioning, aka here, or wherever the case may be, like whatever weapon you have, like you should be up close to try to deal with your opponent in certain places of the game, you know, when you're talking about opening, middle, or end, etc., right? Now that we've discussed that, there's a couple of things we need to think about. Well, of course, so we went over the obvious things. But it's very important to recognize how much paint control do you really have, because in actual comp play, you need to make sure, hey, to do the things you want to accomplish in order to achieve objective, do you have enough paint control to get the job done? And especially, it's very important when you're thinking about what your weapons are, what your specials are, and what sub weapons are you using, right? So those are the things you need to consider in this beginning part. So how do we accomplish creating space to begin with? Now, I know, like I said, this sounds very elementary what we're going over, but we need to seriously ask ourselves these questions. I promise you this will clear up soon. All right, so let's look at turf rule number 2. So how do we accomplish space? In turf rule number 2, if you need turf, you shall create turf. What creates turf? Your main weapon, your sub weapon, and your special weapon. Let me explain. Alright, so what creates space? Your main weapon. I know. Pretty damn anticlimactic. Your main weapon creates space. Your bomb creates space. Yep. Pretty anticlimactic. Wah. And and this also creates space. Pretty much. There you go. That's what creates space. So now that we've established that what creates space to begin with, I'm going to let you know, though, that even though everybody has a responsibility of turfing, because everybody can kind of do this, support weapons or weapons that are oriented with paint hold this responsibility. So basically you need to consider what main weapons actually utilize this idea of turfing better than others. Remember, a sniper can't really paint that much. It backlines and it covers its own paint, but it can't paint drastically. It can't paint for everybody. Nor does weapons like a blaster can't paint for everybody. It has a different job that you need to consider. Even though everybody can do some sort of turfing, the support or weapons that are heavy painters can mostly do that. Now, here's the problem. What happens if you can't paint or the reverse question: how do you stop somebody from painting your side or somebody who's trying to get in your space? Which gets to turf rule number 3. They can't move forward if they can't even paint. What creates pressure? So again, here's the other thing. What is your main weapon? Your main weapon can do that. Your sub weapon and your special weapon. Oh, so it's this all over again. Why this again? So let me explain. All right, so let me start off with 2 particular things. I'll talk about the sub weapon and the special weapon in particular the most. So this could literally prevent a push. That literally is the stopping point of, hey, you can't push up. This literally has the that special has really good pressure to tell someone you can't go forward. And if you do go forward, you're gonna die. And therefore, if you do go forward and you do die, you can't paint. Therefore, thanks to you, you fed to me. So those are the reasons that you should think about what specials do you have that utilize that very effectively. Now, as a team setting, there's many different type of combinations that you can use, which I'll go over in a very different time. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I don't know where I was going with that. But what I was saying is just that rather than that type of option that a special can stop somebody from going forward is very effective. Now, one special by itself can't do that because you'll be facing a bunch of people, and that'll be very coordinated, which actually I will talk about advantage and disadvantage in a different video. Now, for the next thing, what also creates pressure? Bombs. Bombs are very effective for making somebody not go forward. And it's a very, it's very, momentarily, and especially if people aren't very careful and they're freaking out and they need to go and need to get this, need to get objective down, bombs are very effective to stopping a push or something like that because, it's so much pressure that they can't go forward, especially if you have a group with a bunch of bombs. Now, what about main weapons? Can main weapons do some sort of thing like that? Yes, they can. I'll give you an example. So basically, backlines, slosher types, blaster types, can create pressure, splatlings, etc. that other painters do. Well, anybody can create pressure in this game. But a sniper has a lot of effect because look at its range. Look how much paint is covering how far it's going, right? The fact that I can shoot this far away is gonna scare somebody and they won't be able to push forward. I'm preventing from somebody coming up. Now, my job is to stop pressure. Like I said, I have this type of responsibility where I can just stay here and then I can just prevent them from coming up. So that's pretty much it, and it really depends on where I'm positioning, which again goes back to rule 1. If you have enough paint, my positioning will determine how much pressure can I really do, so I can help my teammates go forward and also prevent from people coming in. And okay, one thing to note. So I'm gonna go back to the first 2 subjects. So again, certain weapons, of specials and sub weapons, they serve different purposes of providing pressure. This literally makes people freak out because if they get hit by this twice or 3 times, they die. And then, especially when there's people around and they're shooting, those are different types of way to create pressure. And also, ink mines are a different way to create pressure, but they don't work as effective as regular splat bombs, suction bombs, etc. Like the effect is very different. So depending on what you're trying to accomplish, you need to consider, okay, if I have this rule, these are the advantages and disadvantages I have when it comes to using this type of way to stop something, and need to make, and that reconsiders what role are you really trying to play. Are you playing front, so so that's something you should consider and think about what is in your kit in order to accomplish such thing. Note that some weapons are better at doing that they can do pressure than others. For example, actual bombs that explode to scare people more than a scanner does. A scanner meaning like a point sensor, an ink mine, etc. That's something that's not a scanner, like a toxic mist. There's things like that they work, but they are not effective to get what you really want. So you have to consider what your options are. So again, it's all about having the right weapon for the right tool, having the and using it for effective use on the team, and especially when you want to create a team that can manage different types of situations, you want to use your resources at its best. And again, backline, midlines provide the best pressure in terms of main weapons. But again, anybody can create pressure. It's just some of them are better at doing that than others. Alrighty, folks, that's it. That's all I wanted to go over today. So now you understand the concepts of space and pressure. And yeah, so please think about this in your own way of like, okay, do I have enough paint in order to utilize my options effectively? And that is very important in this game to like, okay, do I have the right, what are my tools that I'm using for, and what are its main purposes? What are their jobs? And, like I said, and, sorry, I'm going like on a tangent. I'm sorry for doing a lot of the ums. But what I was trying to say is that, like, I'm pretty sure other channels have discussed what a front line is, what a back line is, what are their jobs, what are they supposed to do, what a Slayer does, and whatever roles each weapon does. I know other YouTube channels have talked about that, but I'm just talking about very basic and vague subjects about this type of thing. And you can go ahead and look closely at the weapon that you actually have, and you're like, oh, so this is what it's supposed to do. So I'm giving you just vague ideas of what your weapon might actually do. And I hope this really helps you out, guys. That's pretty much it. Please leave a like and subscribe, and I hope to see you guys soon for the next video. I think the next video that I will be touching on will be, it will be advantage and disadvantage. This is one of my favorite subjects to talk about because it's really fun to figure out, like, oh, I could push here, like, because it's about outplaying your opponent and trying to see, oh, I could win this thing that's occurring right now and everything else. Anyway, thank you guys so much. I'll see you guys later. Peace out.